Hello, Happy New Year, and I want to welcome you to the introductory episode of the Boxers Dugout. My name's Mike Baskett, and I'm coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky. It's the home to lots of horses and lots of bourbon, so cheers to that. And now vintage sports cards, apparently. And the bourbon pair is really good with a good dark chocolate. In case you're wondering, you're probably thinking, great, another sports card channel with a guy named Mike. I get that. And I suppose I could go by some YouTube handle, but I lived through the CB radio craze of the 1970s, and a lot of great memories, but I think I'll just go by my real name. My channel name comes from my Little League team. As a kid, our team was sponsored by the Tri-State Container Corporation, which was a regional manufacturer of cardboard boxes. Our team name was the Boxers, understandably. We had great yellow and green uniforms, kind of like the Oakland A's. And it was just a lot of fun. I want to bring a little bit of that into my channel in the logo with the colors and the name. So that's where that comes from. A little background on myself. By vocation, I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm originally from East Tennessee. So I'm a volunteer from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So go Vols to Tony, Southern Collector. The bowl game didn't go so well, but it's been a good season, I think. Fun to watch anyway. As a engineer, I've spent 24 years in the consumer and office printer industry, and then I did about 4.5 years in the automotive industry. And now for about 5 years, kind of in the twilight of my career, I'm in the best encore job a guy like me could have ever asked for. I'm working for a small private company here in Lexington that is outside the corporate world, that is at the forefront of the space industry. So it's just a lot of fun, and I love going to work every day, and really blessed in that arena. Honestly, I've only been back in the hobby for about a year and a half. I collected in the early and mid '80s as a kid and as a teen, but I got away from it late in high school. Uh, I got into it, like 1981 when the hobby started getting legs with Donruss and Fleer coming onto the market, and when this whole condition based value and preservation really started to get mainstream within the collecting community. So uh, mid to early '80s, and just got back into it. Well, how did I get back into it? I've got a son who's a avid coin collector, and early last summer or summer 2024, we went to the American Numismatic Association's World's Fair of Money, which was held in Chicago at the same facility that holds the National Sports Card Convention last year, and I guess again this year. Uh, Went for the coins for him, and not too far from the front door was Heritage Auctions. And of course, they had a lot of coins that were going to be coming up in their next auction, but they also had a lot of pop culture stuff, and they had a lot of vintage cards. And there's some stuff I'd never actually seen before in my first collecting life. A lot of really big names, Jackie Robinson's, the early valuable Mantle cards, Mays cards, and all that kind of stuff. T206 cards. So if you're a Star Wars fan, seeing those cards was like Order 66 being executed in my brain. All that love just came surging back. And another collecting hobby I was involved with was starting to slow down severely due to several factors. And as a collector, I just had an itch that needed to be scratched. So here we are. And after ruminating over it for way too long, I want to thank Greg over at Midlife Cards and Rob at Rob's Cash Cards for their encouragement. I'd hope to get this out before the end of the year, but we're going to record this on New Year's Day and get it out just as soon as I can. What to expect from my channel? Cards mostly, I hope. Certainly love showing cards and sharing cards. You're going to get to follow along as I complete some sets that I loved in my childhood, such as the 63 Fleer set was one I loved as a kid when I could find them. I'm well into getting that set completed underway. That could maybe happen this year. I'm down to the Hall of Famers, a few of the Hall of Famers, so the more expensive cards out of the set. Not terrible, but hope to complete that one this year. In addition, you're going to get to see my 1955 Bowman set, the TV set. I loved those as a kid. I still like them. A lot of people don't, but I do. Uh, it's a lot more ambitious project, but I'm about halfway there. I've got a few of the stars, about half the commons, good chunk of the high numbers, but it's going to take a while to complete that one. But that one's a lot of fun. And you're going to see some things that don't get a lot of love in the community currently, like Kellogg's 3D Superstars. I love those cards. I've got a Red Man Tobacco card project I'm right at the front end of trying to get that one started, and I'll explain that one in a future episode. And then leaning on my engineering background, you're going to see a project I'm working on, which is a size study of the 1971 top set. And for reasons 71 top set, I'll explain when I actually put out a video on that project. But it's just to understand the true factory size variance of a given top set. In this case, it just happens to be the 1971 set. But I've got a good start on that. It's really interesting, and I hope to add to that and keep folks updated. And probably going to throw some shade on this men's size not met thing, which has always bugged me in this grading world we live in now. Along the way, you're going to see some cards of players that you don't see much of compared to a lot of the all-time greats. I'll share why I like to collect them, and I'll share the cards, of course. Guys like Red Schoendienst, Maury Wills, even guys like Joe Garagiola and Leo DeRozier. You'll see guys like that. Will I be as prolific as Greg over at Midlife Cards? Nope. Will I be as polished as Chasing Cardboard? No way. I hope to get content out as I can, and hope to improve and become an active part of this community that I've enjoyed from the sidelines for the last year or so now. So I don't have a card room. So what you're seeing behind me there is my workbench. It's my happy place. I'm also a history buff and an avid scale model builder. Another hobby from my childhood, but one I never gave up. In fact, I'm about to start the 7th year of a audio podcast I've done in the scale modeling genre. Looking forward to that. That's a whole nother thing that won't be part of this channel. But enough about me, enough about this channel. Let's roll back the clock a little bit back into 2025 and look at what I managed to pick up in the 4th quarter of last year. All right, let's look at some cards from November. Most of my November buys were made the weekend after Thanksgiving. There were 2 card shows I was able to attend, and then I went to did a little eBay shopping. So all that concluded before the end of November, from Thanksgiving to the end of November. The first place I did some buying was at the Moeller Show in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'd never been to that show. We went up on the Friday after Thanksgiving, and man, was it crowded. It was so crowded. I've heard from the dealers there that maybe a different time of day or different days would be better if I really want to shop the show. So we'll take that under consideration the next time. But we didn't stay long because it was, in my opinion, prohibitively crowded as far as aisle space and that. But I did manage to pick up one card. I picked up this 1956 Topps Jerry Coleman. Jerry's a player for the Yankees in the late 40s, early 50s, mid 50s, and just a really great American. He's a player run I'm working on because there's some interesting cards in the set. Be more on Jerry Coleman at a later time, but this 56 Topps card is beautiful. The centering's great, the color's great, it's super clean. Was glad to find it and picked that one up for my Jerry Coleman run. After we got tired of the crowd at Moeller, we cruised over to Ideal Baseball Cards over in the Western Hills part of Cincinnati and spent some time there. Maury Wills is another player that interests me. I think he's got an interesting story as far as baseball is concerned. He had some issues in life and was later redeemed from that. And just an interesting guy who, arguably maybe should be in the Hall of Fame given his contributions to the base stealing aspects of baseball. But I did manage to pick up this card. It's a gorgeous 1970 Topps. These are really tough to find centered, this entire set. This one's got great corners, great color, really clean. Was glad to find that one. In addition to Maury Wills, another player I like to collect, mostly out of the nostalgia from my childhood, is Joe Garagiola, mostly from his broadcasting time with CBS. I think we used to watch and listen to him on TV quite a bit, particularly during baseball season. This is a 53 Bowman, shows him with the Pirates. Uh, Another one of my favorite sets. I really love the 53 Bowman colors for their portraits, and their vivid color. Centering could be better on this one, but as we say, this one's pack fresh. The luster on the front is really good. The card's super clean. Just a really neat specimen. I just couldn't leave there. Just super nice. Well, after our time in Cincinnati, uh, well, let me back up. There was a dealer who I thought would be at Moeller. He's usually at our local Lexington show. We have once a month, but I expected him to be at Moeller, and he wasn't there. So we went to Cincinnati on the Friday after Thanksgiving. When we got back on Saturday, well, we were back on Friday, but Saturday, the next day, the Lexington show was going on, same weekend. So I cruised over there, and there he was. And he had a card I've been eyeballing for quite some time. And I went ahead and picked it up. It's this 1964 Cons Frank Robinson. And I showed this. This is my midlife community submission to Greg's midlife sports cards. I'll show it here again. Just I really love these cards. Particularly the Reds. The Reds cards are really vivid. Some of my favorite cards from that set are the Reds players, particularly this Frank Robinson. There's a really great Pete Rose. There's a really great Vada Pinson. All of them are really pretty good. The Cleveland Indians cards are to a little lesser degree. I just don't think it's probably the uniforms aren't quite as colorful. Um, Still pretty colorful, but the Pirates cards, and there's a fairly big card in there. The Roberto Clemente card is a little pricey, but I don't know if it's the photography composition or the color of the uniforms versus the photography. Something about the Pirates cards I find personally less appealing. But the Reds team cards are just stunners, particularly this one. So really got this one. They're on a thin paper stock, so they're kind of hard to find in a good condition. This one's just really, really sharp. Got great corners, no creases, no flaking along the edges for the most part. Really glad to finally pull the trigger on that one, and it really wasn't that much either. And then finally, the week after Thanksgiving, I was on eBay, as most of us are, and found another Jerry Coleman card for my player run. This is kind of an ugly duckling. This is a 51 Burke Ross. Um, there's some pretty significant cards in this set if you're a player run collectors, but they're not particularly attractive in my opinion. And this one's really bad. I just don't think it's a very attractive card at all. But I wanted it for the player run. It was a Greg Morris auction that was not getting any traction, and I think I picked this one up for $12 or $14. So despite the centering issues, despite the fact that it's not very colorful, not very attractive, I wanted one. And for that kind of price, I'm going to pop on it. So those are my pickups for the month of November. Uh, Hopefully, we'll have something to show for my December pickups, and see what happens in the new year. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too terrible. I hope to get better as we go along. But until then, live by the golden rule. Be nice to everybody, even on the internet. Take care.